Hey everybody, happy Monday to you. Hope that your Memorial Day is off to a good start. It was great to be with everybody for Pentecost Sunday yesterday as we heard from some, though not all, of the languages represented in the Pioneer Valley. And what a great experience to hear languages, people singing in different languages, reading the scriptures in different languages, praying in different languages, just to represent the celebration that comes with Pentecost and that came with the Holy Spirit being poured out and bringing together all the nations. And so thank you for those who participated in that. What a great display of our community here in Pioneer Valley. We're working through this conversation in the Gospel of Mark, excuse me, about the good news. And man, I lost my notes yesterday right before the sermon, and so there were some things in there that I didn't get to say, and there were some things that I said that weren't planned. But appreciate you being gracious with me on that. One of the things that I didn't get to say that I just thought was a cool insight that N.T. Wright gives in his book was that Jesus obviously is from Nazareth and Bethlehem, but had done a lot of ministry in Capernaum. And that story in Mark chapter 2 of the man being lowered through the roof, that there's this conversation in the Bible world that home that Jesus was in was probably Jesus's home, and how much more he was forgiving this man, not just of his sins or his physical ailments, but of him breaking his roof. And it just occurred to me, like, maybe that's why he had to go to Levi's house for dinner the next time, right? Because he didn't have a place to host. Anyways, just thought that was a cool insight. So yeah, we're talking about this conversation of the good news, and we landed yesterday in the area of hospitality again and how that works itself out, and the story of Levi and these sinners. And one of the things that I did not say about the class of sinners yesterday, yes, they were certainly those who were not considered like good Torah followers, but they were also the people who were suffering from physical or mental ailments and challenges. And there was this worldview in ancient Palestine that if you were born that way or had received some, that had been impacted that way along the course of your life, that it had to do with your sin. And Jesus comes and just eradicates that, right? And but this is who Jesus is hanging out with. He's hanging out with people who are not considered the ideal citizens, right? Whether that's for physical ailments or mental challenges, or maybe the occupations they're in, right? Tax collectors or prostitutes or whatever they were doing. And these are the people that Jesus comes and eats with and tries to heal, tries to offer the kingdom to. And I just wanted to tell you three quick stories of people that we've been interacting with as a community. And obviously there are many more out there, but there's this couple in our fellowship who had a homeless couple just pull into their driveway and ask for help. And it kind of surprised them. It was obviously, not expected. And they really wrestled with, how do we do this? And they hosted them and fed them and tried to clothe them and provide them some food and housing. And then they came back and asked for more. And this couple was just wrestling and so faithful and trying to really host well. And what they did beautifully was they reached out to other disciples and just said, help us discern this. How do we do this? And I thought it was a great display of the discernment that is required for hospitality, because it does get messy and it is hard and it is navigating things that aren't part of our normal network of relationships and expectations. And we need discernment. We need community in that way. Another story, we were having staff a couple of weeks ago, or actually last week, and in the middle of our staff meeting while we're praying, we hear a woman come in who's weeping and crying. We all stop and we go out to meet her in the foyer there, and she's crying because her son had just died that weekend. And we comfort her, and the disciples kind of come around her and they pray with her, and we bring her water, and we hear her story, and then they go out into the community around the building to try to find her family and bring her help and support. And it was just a beautiful disruption and surprise and painful encounter with this woman and her story, her life. And it was so beautiful to see that God got to work through that the Christians were available to meet her in that space. And then another story of a guy who come around and was asking for help paying a bill, and got some help from the church to pay a bill, and then came back and asked for some more money, and the discernment there was like, hey, we're not going to pay another bill for you, but we can, somebody gave him some other help. And just trying to navigate how do we work with people that are not in our natural network of relationships, that are in different places or experiencing different challenges in their life, and who we want to host and love and serve and show solidarity with and offer the kingdom to. It's messy business, and it takes discernment, and it takes prayer, and it takes looking to Jesus. And I wanted to just make you aware of a couple of books, as I always will, or will probably most often, but you don't have to read these books. They're just books that are available to you. This is one called Making Room by Christine Pohl. Really helpful book because she walks through the history of hospitality throughout ancient Israel into the history of the church over the last 2,000 years, how hospitality has been practiced. And then she lands in some of the really practical, sticky implications of hospitality. When do you say no? When do you say enough? When do you keep saying yes? How does community play into it? How do your resources get used? It's a really helpful book. Leaves some more questions than answers, but opens up, I think, the right questions for us. This is another book called Unclean. I think I might have shared this with you guys before. It's by Richard Beck. Got to meet him and learn from him. He's a psychologist and professor. And what he does, he teaches on the psychology of disgust. So how we relate to things outside of us, things and people outside of us, and what the psychology of disgust is and how it influences our relationships. Really good, helpful book on hospitality as well. Last thing I just wanted to make you aware of, as we talked about discipleship, and we're trying to learn from Jesus how to live in his kingdom, how to follow Jesus, and how to be his apprentices. This is a book I read I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years ago, something like that at this point. It's called The Kingdom Life. It's a bunch of different authors, some really great insights in here. Dallas Willard, Bill Hull, some other people are in here, but they write about what are some spiritual formation things and worldviews that influence or that come from the theology of the kingdom, and how does it look to live that out. And just again, a really helpful book as you're thinking about apprenticeship to Jesus. You may not want to read any of it. That's fine too. If you want to, I'll link those things. I'm also going to link a conversation I had with Marty Solomon a few years back. I interviewed him about apprenticeship and how does that whole thing work and how does he think about apprenticeship. And that may be helpful or interesting to you as well. Look forward to our next stop, our next installment in the Gospel of Mark. We'll see you Sunday. Have a great day.